Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. We are joined here by Bruce Baker, our Chief Business Builder with Workplaces, hailing from beautiful Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. He's here to help so many businesses, business owners worldwide. And we're excited that he's back helping drive businesses all over. How are you today?
Not bad, Jill. How about you? Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for being here. Just a quick little overview about the work you do, and then we're going to kind of dive right into today's conversation, talk a little bit about, the marketing, and of course, I'll bring that up in just a sec. You start. Go ahead.
You betcha. So what we do are three things. We help business owners either scale up their business, start up their business, or fix up their business. So if they're in trouble, we try to get them out of trouble. And if they want to grow their businesses, take it to the next level, and there's obviously a risk associated with growth, we make sure we mitigate those risks and step by step, side by side, until they actually see the results. And of course, startup, which special place in our hearts for entrepreneurs that want to start up their businesses and make sure they do it right the first time around.
Perfect. Well, thank you. We're excited to have you back here. And for today, we're going to talk a little bit about attracting and building your brand. So why do you say so many business owners kind of struggle to attract their ideal clients? What's going on there?
Well, it's an interesting one because most business owners fall into a trap. They fall in love with their own business. And I could say the same thing for me. And we all start off doing that. Some people realize that, maybe it's not the right thing to do, but other people actually don't. Most people don't see this coming. So like I said, they fall in love with their own business. And what I mean by that is we get very excited the stuff that we have to offer, be it a product or service, whatever the case may be. They believe so deeply in what they've built, they forget the message isn't for them.
Yeah.
It's for the market. It's for their clients, for their customer, right? So they end up convincing themselves their messaging is spot on, right?
Okay.
Even though they've never tested it. And more importantly, no one's responding to it. And it's not just, your marketing message isn't there, or you're not doing this right, you're not doing that right. What worries me the most and what bugs me the most to see great business owners experience this is that they become disengaged and they become, it's being so high up in the clouds, and then no one's responding, or very few people are responding in the market, and really takes you down to those depths, deep depths, which we don't want to be when trying to either start up a business or trying to grow or scale our businesses, or even get out of trouble, quite frankly.
Amazing. Well, let's also kind of dive in a little further and talk about some of these disconnects. And, what are some of the ways we could start fixing all of this?
Well, like we discussed last week, when it comes to business owners executing, they have to ask themselves a brutally honest question. What problem am I actually solving, right? I may be excited about this solution that I'm providing to the market and solving for them, but is it truly something that they need solved? And if so, what am I actually solving? Does your market even know that they have that problem, right? Sometimes, Mr. Steve Jobs, we all remember Steve, and no one knew they needed an iPhone until Steve decided to say, hey, this is what you need. And that revolutionized everything. So many business owners don't realize that their audience might not even understand what the solution is, that it even exists, right? And that's where the clarity has to start. So if you have something that's highly innovative, and there are lots of folks out there that are brilliant people providing these great innovative products, but your market isn't educated, your marketing message should be one of information, education. But if you're not even doing that, at the end of the day, you've also got to ask yourself, if they don't know what you're trying to solve, if you don't know what you're trying to solve, how do they know that they can use your service or product to solve something? So it's got to be really, really clear.
Got it. Thank you for that. So we do have to be very specific and express our exact needs and wants. Let's speak a little bit, if you can, about maybe the danger of letting your own narrative kind of cloud the message a little bit.
Yeah, and that's something that's so important, right? So every human being, regardless of where we come from and who we are all governed by this little voice in our heads, right? Or the narrative. And we tend to respond, react, make decisions, live our lives based on what our own narrative is, what our own story is inside our heads. So with that narrative playing in our heads, specifically about our product or our service, right? It's telling us what we think it is. But if the message isn't crystal clear, like I said earlier on, to the person that you're trying to reach, it doesn't matter how much you believe in it. I always recommend Mr. Donald Miller's story brand framework as a starting point. And why it's so awesome is that it forces you to position your client as the hero, just like a story, and your business as the guide, right? So Luke Skywalker meets Obi-Wan Kenobi or
Yeah,
Master
right.
Yoda, right, as the guide. And why this is so cool, just at least start off by reading or listening to that book. That shift changes everything. But it's just that. It's a starting point. So you're feeling stuck, if you're unclear on how to fully apply this to your
Yeah.
business, this is where we help, right? And we work with you to try and get that going. But the book is a great place to start.
Perfect. Well, thank you. I know we talked last week, and for those that may not know, explain a little more about the 4E method, right? And you really, talked about how that's helping entrepreneurs really execute. So, can you kind of show us, how it now applies to the marketing and branding, and just a quick little review about what that is in case someone missed it? Thank you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So first thing to say is that, we all struggle, whether we're business owners, whether we're consumers or people in the market that are using a product and service, we all
Hmm.
struggle with execution. And last week we spoke about entrepreneurs using the 4E method of results. So emotional investment, expectation setting, energizing self, ultimately leading to execution. And that's like a pyramid if we look at that.
Yeah.
To create clarity and drive forward momentum, this is what needs to be done with their business decisions. What most business owners don't realize is that their customers go through an exact similar decision-making process. They're still people, they're still making decisions, and they still have to execute. So when a potential client encounters your message, you're subconsciously asking the same 4E questions. Do I care
Okay.
about this? Is this clear? Does it feel possible? And how do I take action? We also have to tell our potential market what they need to do to take action. If those answers aren't obvious, they disengage, right? So the same tool that helps you as a business owner execute smarter also helps your customers say yes faster because you're speaking directly to how they think and feel. So, Joel, I think the best way to explain this is for me to walk through what it looks like from a customer's perspective, if that works.
Please go for it. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So, like we spoke about the 4Es last week, entrepreneurs gain clarity and execute with purpose. What's fascinating is that, like I said, your customers go through the same process. Just like you, they can't move forward in your business. You can't move forward in your business without being aligned in the 4Es. Neither can your customer when they're deciding whether to work with you or not. So if you want your market to say yes, you have a guide. You have to guide them through these same 4 stages, but from their point of view. That's where the real connection and conversion happens. This is where it gets exciting because the very tool that you've been using to build momentum in your business, we're talking about the 4Es, can
Hmm.
also unlock how your customers think, how they feel, and how they act. So normally the 4Es, again, the emotional investment, expectation setting, energizing self, and execution are used by entrepreneurs to align their decisions and take action. But if we flip that lens, your customers go through the same mental and emotional
Okay.
sequence when they engage with your brand. So if you want them to buy in, your message needs to guide them through the 4Es from their perspective. And we find that it's a huge game changer when we start to say, okay, what's our message look like? Apply it to the 4Es. Is it telling us exactly what they need to go through? And if it does, then it resonates with them. It gives them a need to take action and drive them forward.
Ooh. Wow. Impressive. Thank you so much for that. Bruce Baker joining us here, by the way. Our professional of the year. We are talking about his company, of course, workplaces, and he's helping so many build, amazing businesses. So it's for workplaces. Again, the name of the company. We're excited that he's here joining us today, live on the show. Always ready, always prepared, very thorough, and really helping you succeed personally, entrepreneurially, business wise. And let's continue. We still have a good 10 minutes left. So what else did you want to add for today?
Well, I think there's a couple just staying on the customer and brand and getting your leads to actually convert into active sales. Um, I want people to remember that if you're not getting traction, it's not because you're not good. And this is the cycle, vicious cycle that we tend to go through as business owners, regardless of business stage, growth stage, whatever the case may be. It's because your message isn't landing.
Yeah.
Take that time to ask yourself, what's in it for them? All right. Don't get caught up with your own narrative that, man, how can people not want to purchase this? How can people not want to have this in their lives? Think about what problem they need to solve and how I can be the clearest I can with the message that I've got to answer, right? The answers are in the market, not your imagination, right? When you make your customer the center of your message and you help them see themselves in your story, and again, I go back to that story brand from Donald Miller, you stop pushing your business and you start pulling them in, right? That's the most important thing. You want to invite people in. So now, when we think about customers, when we think about the market, there's also something that I think is important for business owners to understand. Sure. Is, Peter Drucker said this numerous times when he worked with Jack Welch with General Electric. He spoke about abandonment. And what do I mean by abandonment? So last week we spoke about entrepreneurs executing and using the 4E model.
Okay.
And we've had tons of success with that. And this week we're talking about customers or using the 4E model to generate your marketing message at the end of the day. But here's the skinny. The bottom line is that not everything works. And one of the worst things we do, not just as business owners, but as people, once we start building something, we put in a ton of effort, ton of time to get this going. If you're not getting the return on investment, assuming you're measuring something, you're making sure that you put it in place correctly, and it's still not working for you, it's still not giving that return on your investment, it's time to start saying goodbye to these things. It's time to start abandoning. If it's a product, a service, an employee that you've hired, the marketing that you're trying to do, and it's not getting traction, stop hopping on that. Put it aside. You don't have to throw it away, but just at least put it aside. Stop spending bad money after bad money and bad return. It's important that we can put things aside and move forward and try something new, try something fresh. I promise you it'll get folks moving in a much more positive direction.
Beautifully said. Thank you so much. And still with more time on the clock, I know we were kind of rushing a little because we were a little late, but, is there any final advice that you want to, explore here with our listeners and talk to them about their businesses and maybe they're not landing correctly?
Yeah, there you go.
And then you can give us some examples of this.
Absolutely. So, I'm dealing currently with a client who I've worked with for a good couple of years, and we paused for a certain period of time. I've then come back again, and she is no different to any other business out there. Unfortunately, they took on something brand new, and it hasn't been going very well. And she'll get out of it without a doubt. She's a tough CEO, and she'll manage. But I think there's a great lesson in this. And as much as I talk with her, and we've got to get this done, we've got to get that done on a regular basis, the response I get from her is, I just want to survive. I just want to survive. And Jill, we know that there are a lot of businesses out there that are just wanting to survive and make it to the next day and just be able to pay their debt, pay their payroll. The harsh reality, folks, is that if you continue to just survive, you are being governed by the small little piece in your brain called the amygdala, right? The flight or fight response. And we deal with a lot of businesses that are in trouble, and we also get a lot of businesses out of trouble. Yep. And one of the key components, the key reasons why they will get out of trouble is because they say, you know what, as much as my instinct is telling me I have to do everything to survive, they move away from that component, even if it's for 5 to 10 minutes, and think a little bit about where they're at and what they have to do. huge momentum. The key over here is that we've got to remember that it's not natural for us to do that, right? Our flight or fight response in our minds and our brains is incredibly
Yeah.
powerful. And if we can't overcome that, we don't get out of survival mode, we're unable to think critically and unable to make those critical decisions that'll move us out of that ditch that we're stuck in. So anybody out there that is struggling, I would love to speak with them. It'll take maybe 30 minutes of their time, if it's over the phone, if it's in person, whatever the case may be. And I can guarantee you that by the end of that discussion, you'll be feeling a lot different to how you're feeling now. So please don't give up. Remember what I'm saying, and you can do great things if you just put your mind toward it.
Yeah, beautifully said. I love that. Thank you so much. And do you want to share
Welcome.
some of your stories, some of your clients about how you're helping them with this method, of course, getting through and overcoming this and building that brand?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm glad you asked that question. So I introduced the 4E method to this client, and I'm being a little cryptic because obviously I want to keep their
Yes, of
privacy
course.
intact, but introduced the 4E method to her. And right now, if you look at the pyramid, she's sitting at the bottom. She's energized in terms of the vision, in terms of what she wants to change, what she wants to become better at, where she wants her company to be at the end of the day. The problem is that the second level of the 4E method, and now we're talking about the entrepreneur, not the customer, of course, that second level is all about expectation setting. So what happens is when you're in survival mode, you are energized saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to change this, I'm going to do whatever I need to do. But you're not setting expectations. You're not clarifying for yourself what reality actually means to do that. And what's happening is that she's in this vicious cycle. So whenever she gets to that expectation setting and it's not realistic, it tends to knock her right down back to the beginning again. So she's struggling to move through that. So what we're working on right now,
Mm-hmm.
and there seems to be a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel, is when she says, well, you know what, Bruce, I'm going to make sure that I do this and I do that. I'm going to change this. I'm going to change that. And as her business advisor, her coach, and frankly, her accountability partner, I would say to her, I said, do you really think that that's realistic? Do you really think that that's going to happen? And it's a bit of a bittersweet emotion because I'm bursting her bubble. But at the same
Yeah.
time, I have to burst that bubble because when she gets to the action part,
Yep.
she knows exactly what she's actioning and she's not putting herself back down to square one again.
Love it. Well, also, in our last 2 minutes together, I just want people to also know about you, your credentials, because we didn't bring it up in the beginning, but
Yeah.
you have a lot of experience in this, very modest, very humble. Could you just share a little bit about yourself and the company and how hard you've been working?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So at workplaces, we take a very different approach to coaching and consulting.
Okay.
Coaching and consulting by themselves individually, which is traditionally what happens in the field, are not effective. A coach is there to get the mind ready to execute. A consultant is a subject matter expert that comes in like a doctor, diagnoses what needs to be diagnosed,
Mm-hmm.
prescribes a treatment. Now, at the end of the day, you need both. So we infuse the consulting model and the coaching model into what we call is business building. So we're not only coaching you through the process and supporting you, we're actually subject matter experts that go in and actually design,
Yep.
build, and implement solutions in your business. So we take a lot of that load off of you because if you are in a survival situation or you just want to build but don't
Mm-hmm.
have the capacity, which many people don't, we
Yeah.
come in there and we do it for you. We teach you how to fish. That's the critical difference. We make sure you get the results, teach you how to fish because we want to work our way out of a job. We
Yeah.
don't want to be we don't want to have you as the business owner relying on us. We want to strengthen and we want to empower you to continuously drive the new solutions that are obviously creating the results that you're looking for. And that's a big deal for us.
Huge deal. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here. Always a pleasure to have you and always excited. Thank you.
Thanks,
How
Jill, for
can
having
we
me.
reach out to you, darling?
Absolutely. So please go on our website, www.4workplaces.com. Shoot us an email at info@4workplaces.com. Or I just love to talk to people. So please, my personal line, give me a shout, 780-850-6957, and we'll go from there.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Have a fantastic day. I'm glad we got to
You
connect
too.
today, and I'll talk to you next week, right?
Great stuff.
Thank you,
Absolutely. Look forward
Bruce.
to it.
Always a
Take care.
pleasure. Have a great day. Bye bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hi, this is Terry Crews, actor, former football player, game show host, father of 5, and all-around big dude. I'm also an expert on drama. I know all kinds of drama. There's the good kind that comes with having a house full of kids. There's the bad kind like season-ending injuries. There's the necessary kind like having an agent in Hollywood. And there's silly drama like the drama around my percolating pectorals. And then there's the drama you can skip.
Skip the drama that comes with not having your high school diploma or equivalency. Find free adult education classes near you and finish your high school diploma. Visit finishyourdiploma.org.
Or text diploma to 97779. Message and data rates may apply. Reply STOP to opt out. That's diploma to 97779. And leave the drama to actors like me.
Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.